All right, hey everybody, Mark Burgess here, Big East Bass Fishing, bringing you another video, and my sincere thank you for checking it out. And please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. And if you like what you see, hit the notification button. Of course, it's all free, but you're getting notified, every time I post a new video. And I try to post at least 2 full-length videos a week with a bunch of supporting shorts in the middle to fill it out, depending on my schedule. So typically Tuesdays and Fridays is what I've gone to. I've kind of been messing around a little bit, experimenting with posting earlier in the day based on the amount of views. That's not the thing that I want to be continuing to do. So my usual was 6 o'clock at night. My thinking is people get home from work, they have something to eat, they sit down and relax, whatever form of, relaxation, nighttime entertainment. Maybe you're a Netflix, maybe you're a Hulu guy, who knows, Peacock, Paramount, all that. Maybe you get on your phone or your laptop and stream it to your smart TV and watch YouTube. Okay, so I appreciate it if you've chosen to watch my video as your nighttime recreation, if you will. So this video is going to be about the baits that I'm going to use going into the spring. Okay, and they're similar for a lot of people, but there is some uniqueness to everybody's starting lineup, if you will. Up here in the Northeast, our lakes are just thawing out. Okay, we're going to be, it's back cold again, but we had a big warming trend here last week. Next week looks like it's going to warm up again. It looks like we're going to be able to get out on the water. We got some opens starting up here in March, especially down the Cape and southeastern part of Massachusetts. So water's going to be cold, but we're going to be at it here real quick. So I got one more show scheduled this coming weekend. I'm going to be doing seminars on, how to have more fun bass fishing, how to fish highly pressured water. I've been talking about that quite a bit at the last show. I'm also going to mix in the baits that I'm going to start with when I start here, probably in the next week or so. So I got some baits pulled out for that seminar, and now that I mentioned that, I am going to be up at the New England Outdoor Expo in New Hampshire, in Milford, at the Dome this coming weekend, March 7th, 8th. That's Saturday, Sunday. Be up there. I'm going to have a booth up there as well. In addition to the seminars, I'm going to have Big East Bass Fishing swag, hats and hoodies and shirts and stuff like that, and be there to talk bass fishing for the weekend. So the baits I'm going to start off with. Okay, so the water's going to be cold, really cold, upper 30s, at best low 40s when we get out there. Okay, so what am I throwing? Where am I throwing it? What am I looking for? Okay, so I'm looking for southern facing locations. So that's like the north side of the lake, if you will, northwest, northeast, because the sun obviously rises in the east, sets in the west. We're talking about that a lot. If you're new to bass fishing in the spring, those areas warm up. The water's at least a degree or 2 warmer than the rest of the lake. Now you can catch them all over the lake. It's just that I have more confidence fishing those areas that the water is a little bit warmer. Okay, so based on the wind, if it's not too bad, I'm going to fish those areas. What am I looking for? I like to look for steeper banks. Okay, the bass can basically go up and down those banks from deep to shallow and vice versa as they need to. The bait does the same thing, so they'll follow the bait. Okay, so I personally don't like to fish deeper than 25 feet first off out of the spring. I know, talking with a buddy of mine last night, actually, he was catching them on forward facing sonar, but basically right under the boat in like 30 to 33 feet of water. Smallies, good ones. That's most likely where the thermocline is. That's most likely where the bait is. A lot of fish are literally right on the bottom, touching the bottom. this time of year. Okay, so what I'm going to start with, if that's the case, you know, head and sonar, silver buddy, blade bait, basically a piece of steel with a lead head on it. The baits come pretty well good to go now out of the package, but if you get an older head and sonar or silver buddy, there's no split rings, crappy hooks. If you do get a bait like that, you'll see a lot of them at flea markets and on eBay and stuff. Take the hooks off, cut the hooks off, throw them away. Put a split ring and a modern, you know, round bend treble. There's a number 6 on the front, a 4 in the back. The reason for that is it's a nose down bait. This slightly smaller hook catches less debris, and they don't hook together. They can't get together on a cast. Okay, so you got a little snap, not a snap swivel, but a snap. I like to put that. There's adjustable holes in it forward. The most forward, you know, you're going to get a different angle than the middle than the back. Okay, the far back, you know, this thing's going to be, you know, pretty much like that, and almost horizontal with the middle to the front. This bait right here, I like to throw. A lot of guys used to throw this on spinning rod, and me too. But I had a hard time really getting the hook into the fish. All right, so I've gone to, if it is on a spinning rod, it's like 10 to 12 braid, okay, to a fluorocarbon leader. Okay, at least a 10 to 12 pound test fluorocarbon leader. Not very long, short leader. And that helps you get a better hook in the fish with a spinning rod. I've since gone to bait casting, 12 pound test, straight fluoro, on a bait caster. Again, a medium action rod. And I can set the hook into the fish, and it's got enough tip being medium that I can play the fish. And they're very lethargic. When you hook them, it almost feels like you hook somebody's, like a towel that sank down to the bottom, or, you know, a piece of wood or something like that. Just dead weight, not a lot of fight. They'll come up, the water's pretty cold, they don't even jump. They'll just lay on their side, you lip them and bring them in. As the water warms up, okay, I'm gonna go to a jerkbait, all right? This one works very well here in New England, very translucent, you know, purple hue to greenback, translucent, little bit of chartreuse on the bottom, very subtle. Okay, so when I go to this versus this, okay, is if they stop biting this. And when the water warms up, the fish will move up in that water column. And when I'm fishing that silver buddy or the sonar blade bait, if I can, I like to put my boat shallow with literally the bank behind me, or the shallower water behind me. Throw out deep, have it go to the bottom, and I'm pulling it up the drop, okay? Up. And it's in constant contact with the bottom doing that. If you're out deep throwing shallow, which will work fine as well, when you pop it off, if it's really steep, when you pop it off, it's going down at a pretty good clip. You're gonna cover a lot of ground. This bait right here, they will swim over. This bait sitting still on the bottom. The smallmouth will swim over, largemouth as well, will swim over and eat it off the bottom, just sitting on the bottom. Okay, so the key is to little movement as possible. And when you do move it, it has a very, very severe. When you pull it, you feel it, very, very heavy vibration that you can't miss. Okay, and that's what clues the fish into it being there. Okay, a lot of action and flash in a very short space, and when it's sunny and a little breezy is when I like to throw it. The same thing with the jerkbait. I like sunny, bright sun, and a little chop. Okay, it's better. Okay, it's just much better than cloudy conditions. Okay, the jerkbait, again, guys like to throw it on a spinning rod. 6, 8, 10 pound test. I like throwing it on, you know, a medium light bait casting, something that I can move the bait. When I get bit, I need the forgiveness, you know, to keep those hooks in the fish. keep them buttoned up, okay, and I can play them a little bit better. So I prefer bait casting. You know, again, 8-10 pound test on a bait caster is how I throw my jerkbait. And you can't fish that slow enough, okay? Suspending jerkbait, cast it out, wind it down a little bit, and just stop it. The longer you can make it sit there, the better. I mean, if you're using forward-facing sonar and you're watching the fish react to it, now you can play around with it. You want to keep the bait over the fish, above the fish if you can, and watch the fish, how they're reacting to the bait. You know, a lot of times in real clear water, I used to be able to see the fish coming up behind it. And if you moved it too quick, when the water's really cold, they're not in a chasing mood, okay? The longer you can let it sit there, the better. And, you know, horizontal or a little nose down, in my opinion, is the way you want it. If you don't have forward-facing sonar, not to worry. Basically, just keep changing the cadence, or a cadence that you have confidence in. Like I like to go jerk, jerk, pause, jerk, pause. Okay, so but if that's not working, jerk, 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 pause. Okay, jerk, 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 pause. All right, or just one, cast out, jerk, pause. Or pull it. Instead of a hard jerk, just pull it. Just pull it a little bit so the bait moves a little bit. Let it sit there. Mess around with that for as long as it takes until you get a bite. Okay? Now, the other thing I really enjoy doing in the springtime out of the gate is throwing a crankbait. One of the best cold water crankbaits, you know, is your wigglewort. Okay? Crawfish colored wigglewort. I like the orange, brownish orange, translucent bottom. My favorite crankbait to throw when the water's cold, up until about it gets into the 50s, maybe 60. When it gets close to 60, not so much. But wigglewort, I'm throwing this on 10-pound line, 10 to 12-pound line on a crankbait rod, a loose crankbait rod, 6, 4 to 1, something like that, just to kind of slow it down a little bit. This bait will dive to about 8 to 9 feet deep, which is a key depth, you know, in the springtime when they start to move up. So I like to cover some water with the crankbait. Again, it's, you know, this just excels in cold water. What can I say? It works good. The other bait that I'd like to throw, relatively new from Strike King, is called the Gravel Dog. Just came out a year or two ago. Red, okay? Red colors, for whatever reason, they just work in the spring, all right? Especially if the water's got a little color to it, but red really will outperform most other colors first thing in spring. This bait, they have a Gravel Dog 8, Gravel Dog 10. They're true to that. They will dive 8 to 10 feet deep depending on how they're labeled. And this thing is a dredger, okay? So I'm gonna bump this up to about 12-pound test line because I am down towards the bottom. And it is down there digging like this, okay? But it's not a steady retrieve. I'll get it down, make contact with the bottom, pause it, pull it a little bit, okay, pause it. It's not a steady retrieve, okay? It's stop and go, boom, boom, hit the bottom, float up a little bit, boom, 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 hit the bottom, float up a little bit, okay? But Strike King Gravel Dog, highly recommend that. Lipless crankbait, what can you say? You've heard a lot about it. Nomad design, the best lipless crankbait I've really ever seen and used. Okay, again, in the spring. This is the 3/4 ounce, massive and just incredible vibration. Has a system in it where it stays true. This line tie moves back and forth. This thing stays straight up and down, stays true to itself. Phenomenal vibration. 3/4 ounce in a small, I mean, that's typically more like a 1/2 ounce. Comes with great hooks on it, and it just flat out catches them. Flat out catches them. I'm dragging it. You can steady retrieve it, but again, I'm pulling it down, bouncing it off of rocks. Hit a rock, pause it a little bit, pull it a little bit, swim it a little bit more. Every time it hits something, pause it a little bit. Just basically working it slow. You can yo-yo it. Hits the bottom, pull it up, okay, and let it go back down. Pull it up, let it go back down. Just mess with it, okay? If there is any vegetation, just gets hung in a little vegetation, rip it out. You just feel it wad up in that, pop it out. That's when you're going to get the bite, okay? But this bait also excels in cold water first thing in the spring. And it has, I mean, I've caught just a ton of big fish on it. All right, so you can't forget the jig, all right? Can't talk enough about a jig. This bait right here, doesn't matter whether, you know, it's natural color, black and blue. These two jigs right here, these two colors, any combination of black, blue, any combination of green pumpkin, watermelons, light browns, it just works. In my opinion, if you wanted to go out and buy some jigs, quarter, 3/8, half, 3/4, 1 ounce, get them in these two colors, black, blue, or a green mix of green pumpkin. You can't go wrong. You can mess with the trailers. You could put a green pumpkin trailer on the black, blue, dip the tails blue if you want. You can take this jig right here. This has got some blue on it. I could easily make that orange with a spike it pen, depending on what forage that I think the bass are feeding on that I want to try to imitate. And a jig is something that will catch them on the fall. It'll catch them sitting there on the bottom. You can slow crawl this thing. You can skip it under things. You can fish docks. You can fish logs, rocks, grass, flats, drops, all of it, okay? You can do with a jig. You can swim the jig. It's just an all-around, very versatile bait, and it catches a lot of fish in the spring. I will say the jig in the spring with a trailer, like a Zoom chunk, something with not a lot of action in the spring, is my personal preference. As the water warms up, the trailer's gonna get bigger and the action is gonna get more pronounced, okay? As the water warms up, all right? And typically heavier too. You know, you can get away with a light jig. You want that slow fall in the springtime when the water's cold. And then as water warms up, you want a faster fall, okay, out of the jig. But that's just a few of the baits that I'm gonna literally start off with here in a few weeks. One other little tip I can give you is to put some scent on your baits, especially the bottom baits. Here's a little crawfish wand that, you know, it's in a paste that sticks to the bait really well. I can recommend that. So, yeah, you know, those are usually the baits that I start off with, and I'll be talking about at this upcoming show this weekend. So hopefully that helps you out. Let me know what you like to start with and where you're from and what water you fish on. Obviously, things are very different the further south you go, where the water doesn't get as cold, it doesn't freeze. You may be starting out, you know, you may have been fishing all winter long if you're from Florida, you know, and further up the East Coast from the south to north. Yeah, let me know where you're from and what you start off with, and yeah, we'll talk about it. So again, I appreciate you checking out another video. I hope this information helps you out, and keep the comments coming. Let me know your thoughts. Any other questions, I'll be glad to answer. I got a few other videos lined up that have been requested by some of my viewers. So we're going to be, in the future, we're going to be talking about some of the knots I use, how to tie them, some resources on how to see these knots, you know, in a book, if you will. So keep your eyes out for that. Again, thanks for watching, and I'm going to see you on the water here very, very soon.